Hey guys, this is Lorenz, and welcome back to the Ketones and Coffee podcast. And thank you so much for tuning in. I know everyone here that's listening are here because you want to create a sustainable, healthy lifestyle through the ketogenic diet. And every single week, I try to bring in guests that not only has the knowledge, but these individuals has also been through the same trials that we all have been through when it comes down to our search for a better health. We get together in hopes to assist you on your own journey. I'm so excited for this, guys. Our guest today is a registered dietitian. Her practice focuses on helping women lose weight and help them realize the benefits of the ketogenic diet. She is also the host of the show, the Ketogenic Nutritionist podcast, where she talks about keto nutrition, tips for weight loss, and anything and everything keto. Also, she is somebody that has played at the highest level in college as a D1 soccer player. I'm so excited for this. I'm here with Temple. Temple, welcome to the show.
Yeah, thank you. I'm glad to be here. It's always fun to talk about keto with like-minded individuals. So I appreciate you for bringing me on.
Awesome. First of all, thank you for coming on, taking some time out of your busy day, running a business, running a household, being a mom, basically running the show. It's a pleasure. Um,
Yeah, I'm excited.
just to preface very quickly, soccer player in college, obviously playing at the highest level and having a degree in dietetics, which gives you this great understanding about nutrition and how it affects the body in terms of performance, all that good stuff. Then life got in the way. Sometimes life throws us a curveball. For you, it was PCOS, and then also finding out a few weeks later that you also got diagnosed with Hashimotos.
Yeah.
And then shortly after, this is when you did your own digging, found keto. Then fast forward, we are here today, completely reverse PCOS, correct?
Yeah, completely clinically undiagnosable
Mhm.
with PCOS.
And then Hashimoto's in remission. And then this is through the help of keto. And then you said you also are doing intermittent fasting, some cold therapy, right?
Yeah, lots and life. Yeah, some lifestyle stuff too. Managing stress, making
Mm.
sure I'm sleeping. There's some supplemental things I do as well. But I would say by far the biggest transformation was when I started the ketogenic diet.
Awesome. And also you've lost 40 pounds in process. Temple, you were performing at the highest level and you said you followed all the guidelines that the government was putting out. Let's get back on track. Let's get go back, way back to your relationship with food early on. I want to get a sense of your transition. You've decided pretty quickly to switch, which is telling of a specific mindset you had, right?
Yeah.
Um, you learned about how food can impact your performance. So it seems like you had this great awareness, right? That eating the right way, the right food helps our body perform better, which makes you ahead of some of the people at your age, right?
Mhm.
Before we get into keto and what led you to that, starting at such an early age, you said you're always been, around sports, right? Where did that all come from? Because that is ideal for kids, right? Talk about growing up playing sports. What was your environment like, your family's food habits, then evolving, and then your evolving relationship with food at the time?
Yeah, so I grew up in South Mississippi to set the precedent. So South Mississippi food culture is very high sugar, very high fat. So and my parents did the best they could and what they gave me, and we always ate home cooked meals. But still, even then, just with what the South is and what it brings food wise,
Mm,
it was just not a great set up for the future. And I look back and I always was kind of the chunkier kid. Like I was always the heavier girl. I was always a little bit awkward and definitely carrying some extra weight. But it didn't stop me athletically, and I think in some ways it probably helped. But I was always very competitive. I always I played soccer on the college level, but I was always involved in track and softball and basketball and all the things, and I always just had this desire to be the best, and I think that
mhm,
comes with my personality type as well. but yeah, so I grew up in the South, and I played sports, which I loved, and so that is really what sparked my joy for health and nutrition. I think at a younger age, of not so much like how can I preserve my life for a long time and live
Mm,
a good quality life, more so like how can I eat that's going to make me play well and make me
mm,
perform well. And then it's definitely adapted as I've gotten older to, wow, that's not my number one priority anymore.
mhm,
It's performance. It's so much more longevity. And so yeah, the South shaped my beliefs on the food. But I'll tell you this, I loved where I grew up, and I had a great childhood. But definitely comes with an interesting food culture growing up in South Mississippi. Lots of fried foods, lots of sweets.
Man, that must have been so difficult just navigating how you would perform better at the highest level, plus all the temptation right when you get out of the school, right?
Yeah.
Man, that and having that at such an early age, having that just discipline is not common. Let's
No.
say not common with your age. So just very telling of, you obviously you went to college for dietetics, right? Obviously you had that natural inclination of, just the effect of food in your performance. And then what you've gone through was unique, right? Is unique in a sense that it seemed like you were somebody that has followed all these health guidelines
Yeah.
thrown to you. Obviously you're playing at the high level, always into athletics. um I could imagine that this is something that was unexpected for
Oh yeah.
you, right? um Obviously you got your degree in all that, your activity level, your food relationship has always been following the guidelines, correct?
Yeah.
um
Go ahead.
Go ahead, yeah.
No, I was just gonna say, I look back, and I cared so deeply about playing well, and I was listening to
Hmm.
everything that I could find, and I look back, and now I'm like, wow, I really missed out because I had
Hmm.
no idea about keto at the time. I had no idea. I was following the typical my plate, the typical, USDA whole grain
Uh-huh.
guidelines. And I look back and I'm like, man, if only I could have gotten to it a little sooner. I wonder how much better I would have felt.
Longevity,
Yeah, and my performance would have been had
man.
I found this quicker.
It plays into like the timing of it, right? So keto has always been there. We've known keto for a long time, but for it's never for performance, right? And then when this all happened, take us through that leading to your first doctor's visit. I believe that, after college you started your practice, right? And then what happened?
So I always knew something was off in
Mhm,
college. So even as I was playing, I was definitely having some very obvious hormonal problems. No cycle. I was still having a hard time getting control of weight, even though I'm running all the time. I'm lifting weights. Like I always knew something was off. And even in college, I was going to doctors saying like, "Hey, I'm not having a
mhm,
cycle. What's going on? My hair's falling out." And I always got the same answer of like, "Oh, you're an athlete. You just
mhm,
expect like you're just working too hard and it's messing up your cycle." And
mhm,
so after college, I went to do my internship at a hospital here in Florida. And that's really when it all hit the fan, sickness wise. I mean,
mhm,
it seems like 30 or 40 pounds just popped on me overnight. All of the symptoms I was already having just magnified. I was losing more hair. I
mhm,
was so tired all the time. I mean, and I'm trying to navigate teaching people and learning to be a dietitian, and I couldn't even keep my eyes open. And so I went, I found an OBGYN down here, and I went to them and I said, "Look, this is my history. I don't have a cycle. I'm having these problems. The excuse of me playing soccer is out the window because I'm not
mhm,
playing soccer anymore." And so they, of course, ran blood work and then came back with a PCOS diagnosis. And I can remember they told me a couple things. Number one, they told me it'd be very challenging to get pregnant if I got pregnant at all,
mm,
and that I need to get on birth control and I need to go ahead and start metformin to get control of this. I asked specifically because I was obviously a dietitian at the time. Is there anything I can do lifestyle wise? Can I change the course with my food and with what I'm
Mm.
doing? And the answer is no, you're kind of stuck with this forever. Well,
Oh
that
no.
that I know that was my first appointment, and the Hashimoto's got diagnosed a couple weeks later by a different doctor because I wasn't pleased with the one I
You
saw.
know, I'm not, I've never discredit doctors. I would never discount doctors. But if there is an alternative, I think it's it's um it's to their, what's the word,
Benefit,
responsibility to know about it, right? It's their responsibility to know about it, because people really listen to doctors. They stick to what they say. Like for example, right? Type 2 diabetes, right? It's, we know now in this community that it could be reversed, correct? And my dad was diagnosed with type 2 diabetes, and um because his doctor doesn't recommend it, going off the meds, then he, even though he knows about keto, even though he does his own research on how to reverse type 2 diabetes, he still is afraid because his doctor doesn't recommend it, right?
yeah,
So that becomes the doctor's responsibility, right? And I think it's irresponsible, in my opinion, not for a doctor not to know any alternative, because it's a person's life on the line here,
yeah.
right? So I love how you've, obviously did your own digging, did your own research, and I believe that this is when you found about keto.
Yeah. And I completely agree with what you said. I think, and I think part of it is the way that the medical system is set up. Doctors just don't even have time to
Mm,
like think about this kind of stuff because it's like push, 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 see as many people as possible, as quick as possible.
mhm,
Thankfully, I think things are turning to a more functional, holistic approach. But yeah, you're right. I mean, it is. It is responsibility. But yeah, didn't take that for an answer of I was just recently married at the time, and
mhm,
I'm thinking I'm gonna have kids. Like, you're not gonna tell me it's gonna be hard for me to have
mm.
children.
Yeah, yeah.
So that's really the first book I fell into when I was looking for PCOS alternative therapy was the Obesity Code, and that was the first book I read, and I was like, oh man, this is a big deal. And I had like a young life crisis because I had just become a dietitian, and I was teaching others this whole grain, got to get all the dairy, like all this
Yeah.
stuff that was just backwards.
Uh-huh.
And I read that book, and I can remember thinking, oh my gosh, like, am I telling
Yeah.
everyone the wrong stuff? And then the icing on the cake was when I read Dr. Bickman's book, Why We Get Sick. And I was like, yep, I quit my job at that point at the VA and completely changed my life. But once I started dabbling into the stuff, results were crazy quick. Like, I got my cycle back within a couple weeks of reading that book and changing to more keto style.
Mhm,
I started losing weight very quickly, which was awesome. A lot of the symptoms, my hair stopped falling out. So it was very quick. And I'm thinking,
mm.
wow, I'm so glad that while it stinks to be diagnosed with PCOS, I'm glad I found this because now I can share my story and help others.
That's very important to me, because having you use your own experience to educate other people, right? Because there's not really a lot of, you know documentations out there for keto. Now it's becoming more relevant, I think, I believe, but there is still a shortage of information, because as you as I talk to normal people that isn't in the community, right? What do they know about keto? They know it's a weight loss tool, but that's it. But they may have a negative perspective on what keto is, because it just, the weight loss is uh, very instantaneous, right? When you get into keto, and the mindset of people, that can't be healthy.
Yeah.
So that alone is very, very hard to explain to people when once you get into it. But what was your first initial um reaction to when you were reading up on keto, and What was your first initial reaction?
Well, of course, because I'm a classically
Mm-hmm.
trained at this time dietitian, and we've been taught the to fear fat, and saturated
Mm-hmm.
fat is not good in high quantities and all this stuff. I was initially like, oh gosh, I can't tell anybody I'm doing this, especially not the dietitians I work with, which
Yeah.
is sad, but that was my initial thought of like, wait, is this real? Can this
Mm-hmm.
be true? And you look back and you look at what our dietary recommendations are from the government and so on, and really people aren't getting healthier. I mean, if you look at the statistics for obesity and chronic disease and Alzheimer's, and I mean, now people they're focusing on insulin resistance. You look at these statistics and it's terrible. I mean, it's the trajectory is
Mm-hmm.
not positive. And so I thought to myself, okay, this seems backwards to anything that I've ever thought. This doesn't feel right initially, but what do I have to lose at this point? Because everything that I had tried previously is not working. So
Mm-hmm.
I kind of left this out earlier, but when I initially got diagnosed, before I found the obesity code, I tried everything. I mean, I was vegan for a time. That was a disaster. I did the Weight Watchers stuff. I tried to count calories, nothing. I mean, it almost felt like I was gaining weight when I was trying all these things. And so that's initially my thought was, what do I have to lose, number one, and what if this actually works? And the good thing about keto, and it's rapid. I mean, you start feeling better as soon as you get over the initial keto flu kind of thing, and you can avoid that if you're careful. But
Mm-hmm.
I was just like, whoa, this can't be bad for me because I feel this good. And so
Exactly.
it was a not a young life crisis, but it's like once you see the light, you can't
Mm-hmm.
go back. And for a dietitian, that's kind of dangerous because our field is
Yeah.
not keto friendly in
That
any
must
way.
be very confusing for you at the time because your career, you've gone to school for dietetics, and you've built your career on the guidelines, correct? And your advice is based on that. And just what was the thought process? Obviously you're you have your own practice now,
Mhm.
but it must be really frustrating for you at first, because what you've learned you can't even practice within your own self.
Yeah, I first I was really scared to be
Mm,
and scared or just nervous about the
mm,
whole thing. I definitely didn't tell a soul. Obviously, my
mm,
husband knew what we were doing, and I didn't tell anyone. And then you know what, which I believe was total divine intervention and a
mm,
blessing. About 2 months later, 3 months later,
mm,
Virta Health, which is a huge medical, I'm sure you've heard of Virta, but
mm,
they have the medical team ran a research study using the Veterans Affairs hospital
mm,
system, which I was in. And so I had the opportunity to enroll some of my veterans that I was
mm,
currently counseling in it. And this is when the whole game changed happened for me.
mm,
Is I got a couple veterans in this Verta health study, and
mm,
they two of them reversed their diabetes, and the other guy lost like 85 pounds and got off all high blood pressure medications. He was having beginning stage of kidney failure, got everything. It completely reversed. And I could remember like secretly
mm,
thinking, I'm doing this. Now I'm watching this come to life and come to
mm,
fruition in these veterans. And and I was amazed. I was amazed. And again, that was another kind of
mm,
confirmation for me that I'm on the right track. But it was still
mm,
very talked about in a bad way. So like some of the other dietitians and even some of the medical staff at the hospital were like, oh, I don't know about this study, I don't know about this Virta Health thing. And so I kept my mouth shut about it, but then I was able to see some of the
mm,
results. And as I saw more and more results and honestly dug into the research, I was like, you know what, I'm gonna have to be bold about this.
mm,
And I may be the black sheep of the dietitian community, but someone's got to do it
mm.
because people are suffering. And so that's ultimately what emotions I felt was in the beginning fear and a little bit of nervousness. And now it's like, no, I'm gonna die on this hill. And not necessarily die on this hill because I'm open to nutrition science coming out at any
Mhm,
point. But
mhm.
right now, given the information that I have, this is what the right thing is for me to pursue.
Oh, definitely it could be improved, right? Something may come out improving this way of life. But let
Yep.
me say this. Let me say this. If you hadn't been diagnosed with PCOS or Hashimoto's,
Yep.
what would you have been doing right now?
It's a
Right?
great question. Yeah.
So for me, this combination of your curiosity, your inclination to wanting to, find out what food can do to our body, plus being diagnosed with PCOS is the formula, I think, to someone finding out about keto and then educating people about it. You know what I mean? Like, if you didn't have everything from your childhood to your discipline and this curveball that you receive, and now you're educating people about what you found. If that didn't happen, if PCOS didn't happen to you, you would be doing something different today. Correct?
Absolutely. Yeah. And you look at a lot of health practitioners that
Mm,
are relatively influential in the
mm,
ketogenic space, and a lot of them have a similar situation. I think of Dr. Barry. I think he was like pre diabetic, and I
mm,
think he lost a lot of weight too. So you look at some of these people that are more outspoken about it on social media and that kind of the influential space, and a lot of them have that same kind of I don't know, synergistic
mhm.
thing that happens where they're sick and then they read about it and then it starts to work and now they're believing in it and teaching it.
I saw statistics the other day about how 44% of doctors are obese. That's for me is so telling of, what this guideline is. Like, they're not doctors are not even following it, or following a different lifestyle. But yeah, I mean, think about those people with the same diagnosis like you did, right? Going through the doctor's visit, told to take this medication and given zero options, right? It's incredibly irresponsible, in my opinion. Um why do I say that? Because some people becomes afraid to get off, like I said, like, get off these medications, right?
Yep.
um so I love this journey that you're on. That's, again, the formula to fix this society, I believe. Having your skill set and the knowledge that you've gained from your own experience, I think, is the cure that comes with, understanding the body. Of course, here you are today. Maybe not what you expected to do, right? But I believe that it's for a much bigger purpose. um you found this path the right way for you, giving people, an option. What have you found common with people who are hopeful and wanting to follow this path? Is it the mindset? Is it the younger generation that you see coming in, just wanting, looking for that alternative? um who are more inclined to find this alternative you've seen?
So yeah, I think I'll tell you, this is a great question. So I think yes, the younger, definitely the 25 to 40s
Mm-hmm.
people seem really open to this. But I say that with a caveat of I've seen a lot of older and I counsel women about I would say 25 to even up to 75, 80. But I've seen a lot of the older generations actually perk their ears up about this and get on board because they see what doesn't work and
Mm-hmm.
they've seen the whole lifespan of the nutrition guidelines and the fat fearing and all of that stuff, and then they've kind of also seen where it's brought us out too, and they've watched this go on. So I would say honestly, I think people, if you can get past the whole I'm scared to death of saturated fat and I meat is bad for you, if you can get past that and win them over, honestly, I think all of the generations are open, and I've counseled women in every single age bracket there is, and so I think that's a great thing. And I think people are smart and they understand, if you show them why this hasn't worked and an alternative, and then even just say, hey, just try it. Like, you don't have to do this for the rest of your life, but just give it a week or so, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, and see how you feel. And then at that moment is usually when people are like, wow, this really works. And then they start seeing the results, of course, and then they're sold.
Absolutely. And, you know I want to ask you, when did you realize that this was the lifestyle for you? Is it, a week in, 2 weeks in, maybe a month in? Um, when did you realize that this was the lifestyle? And then how did you decide what was your thought process on deciding that this is what you want to do now? I want to tell people about this.
So I came to the decision in 2020. It was
Mhm,
in June of 2020 is when I actually January 2020 when I started to think I'm going to quit my job at the hospital. And
mhm,
at that point I had been using the ketogenic diet in a lot of veterans, so I'd kind of already switched over to counseling
mhm,
um, with low carb and keto at that time. But I got really passionate about it because I was seeing a lot of women and people still struggling in the social media world, and there
mhm.
just wasn't I wasn't seeing a dietitian, somebody that could help them. And so it was January 2020. I said, I think I'm going to start my own private practice. I didn't actually, cut it completely out or quit my job until March or April, I think, of that same year. And then it just exploded. Even I was packing out my groups with, 1,000 followers on Instagram. And so I was like, wow, people are hungry for help, and they're desperate for help. And there's tons of people out there, but everyone has a good fit for someone else. And so um yeah, that was when. And so now I've been in practice for a year, almost 2 years, I would say, and it was the best decision I've ever made in my life, because not only am I passionate about it, but I'm watching my clients get pregnant, I'm watching them lose 50, 60, 70
Mm,
pounds, and I'm watching their lives just completely change, and the quality of their life completely change, and that's super rewarding for me.
absolutely. And, having that experience that you have with your own diagnosis, having reversed it, gives a lot of people hope, right? And which, maybe they're uh, somebody that got diagnosed recently, not knowing about keto, and then all of a sudden they find your page, and reading up on your story, they your story resonates, you know with their own experience. And that's huge for people that are struggling, because you're right, there's such a need for somebody like you that has the experience. And that's 'cause these people are on medication that, obviously, you've said, you after the doctor's visit, you're more confused than ever, right? Going into the doctor's visit, after the doctor's visit, all they had to say to you was, take this pill and you'll be on this pill for who knows how long, right? B- and with your natural inclination for learning and looking for the right solution, gives you that edge. But these people would just take the advice and live it for the rest of their lives. What they don't know that there is an alternative, that it could be, their life could be better. So I really love what you're doing, and yeah, just in awe of just your story, because having that collection of uh just events in your life that leads you to this is very, very unique, and it doesn't happen to a lot of people. I don't think many nutritionists would pivot the way that you did, right? With nutrition. And so I'm just glad that your practice is out there for these people. And I believe that you are making a real impact when it comes to just your own story, giving your story out there, and the knowledge that you've gained from your own experience. So thank you, Temple, for coming on, sharing your story. um I want to dig in deeper with your coaching.
Mhm.
So let's say I am a new patient. Maybe let's say I'm diagnosed with PCOS. I don't know anything about keto. Where do you start me right away?
Yeah. So I typically like to have my clients at least have some degree of knowledge on why we're doing things the way we're doing things. Why are we limiting, discontinuing carbohydrates? Like, what does that happen? What causes does that uh, affect in the body?
Mhm.
Lowering the blood glucose, lowering insulin. And so I like to make sure that people understand what we're doing there, so that we can understand the body mechanics behind it. But then I keep my things as simple as possible, right? I don't want people to have to completely rearrange their life. And in some cases, they probably will if they're doing a lot of soda and fast foods and things that are
Mhm.
hard to make good keto choices doing. But I like to meet people where they are and say, okay, this is what your routine looks like. How can we take simple steps to make this more keto friendly and make this
Mhm.
more blood sugar and insulin friendly? And so, I teach them all about eating out. I teach them about, snacks. I teach them about how to set up their pantry and how to cook and how to prepare meals and how to make it a simple process. I teach them about avoiding the keto flu, of
Mhm.
course, and I really, again, try to work with clients and where they are in their life so that we can make this a sustainable thing and
Mhm.
not just a 2 month weight loss challenge kind of thing.
Yeah.
This to be a long term solution for them, and
Mhm.
many of my clients are already very insulin resistant
Mhm.
and or at risk for being insulin resistant in the future, whether they already have type 2 diabetes or PCOS or some of these other conditions. And so, yeah, I just try to give them the knowledge, and my goal for my clients is that they are able to problem solve on their own in the future, right? I give them as much as knowledge as I can and teach them how to critically think about nutrition. Uh, but I want them to leave me and go blossom and be able to figure out kind of their own way of doing keto and what fits their lifestyle the best.
I love that you said you keep it simple and you ease their way into it, because it could be very overwhelming in the beginning, right? Lots of information that they have to that they there are a lot of information that they maybe heard or from, you know learned from school, that are not necessarily uh, true for keto anymore, right? So there's a lot of unlearning in the beginning, and sometimes people are overwhelmed with, maybe I cannot get rid of rice yet, right? Sometimes I can't get rid of bread yet. um and so it's important to be able to uh learn that you don't have to transition to keto right away. I think elimination in the beginning is very important as well, and you don't want to overwhelm yourself. Okay, learning that, you said, it's not a short term goal, it's not a 30-day thing, it's not a 60-day thing, it's a lifestyle thing, it's a long term thing. It takes a lot of planning. That's why I love, coaches that have these experiences, their own experiences, like yourself, because you have this wealth of knowledge about transitioning into this lifestyle. You're not just saying transition to this because you've read it. You've actually gone through it, and you can actually um, teach them step by step on how you did it yourself, so you could be more successful.
Yeah.
So I believe that, coaching is needed for keto, just because you don't learn this in school. Most of the coaches you've heard of actually gone through it, actually gone through the process of transitioning themselves, because this is a unique path for everybody. You don't find keto from a book from school. You
Mm-mm.
find it because you were led to it. You have this natural inclination to fueling your body with food that is actually good for you. And so, wow, thank you so much for coming on, sharing your story, Temple. I believe that your path, your journey is helping a lot of people, impacting a lot of people, and you're helping a lot of people as well by coming on and speaking to my listeners today. And so I want to give you your flowers, and you are somebody that I look up to, and please continue to do what you do. I'm definitely a fan of yours and will continue to follow you. If you want to follow Temple, Her website is templedeketonutritionist.com. She also has an Instagram, the.ketogenic.nutritionist. She also have a podcast, the nutritionist, the
Yep.
ketogenic nutritionist. Sorry,
Yep.
guys.
You got it.
I got it. This has been a blast. Thank you once again, Temple. If did we miss anything that you want to add to?
No,
No.
no, this was really fun, and I really appreciate you having me on. It's been good.
Thanks, Temple. Have a great day. Okay. Bye bye.
Thank you. Bye.